I'm Tracy Sable. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, a new leader.
Y que viva Claudia Sheinbaum!
A closer look at Claudia Sheinbaum, a secular governing party candidate elected president of majority Catholic Mexico. A push for peace. New developments in the proposal to end the fighting between Israel and Hamas. On the hot seat.
Can I finish the answer to you, sir?
No, because I've got a lot of questions.
Okay.
Dr. Anthony Fauci appears before lawmakers, and there's plenty of fireworks. We're on Capitol Hill. And our cup runneth over. The new movie, Jesus Thirsts, examines the power of the Eucharist. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the Feast of St. Charles Lwanga and Companions. Our top story tonight, voters in Mexico elect the first female president and the first Jewish leader in the Catholic country's 200-year history. Claudia Sheinbaum, the candidate for the ruling Morena party that was supported by the current president of Mexico, was announced the winner of the 2024 election on Sunday night with an overwhelming majority in what promised to be a historic election with two strong female candidates in the lead. The Mexican bishops encouraged voters to participate on Sunday as record levels of violence throughout the campaign season made many fearful of going to the polls. But questions are mounting about the country's first female leader and her ties to the existing party, her secular outlook, and support for abortion, and how that will work while governing a country that is three-quarters Catholic. For analysis, we turn now to Jason Poblete, co-founder of the Global Liberty Alliance. Jason, always good to be with you. So what can you tell us about Claudia Sheinbaum's record as a leader, and what other significant positions has she held in Mexico?
Tracy, thank you for having us, and thank you for focusing on Mexico. I think this issue is much more pressing for Americans than what's happening even in Ukraine or in the Middle East. Mexico is our largest trade partner now. That's a good thing. We want to grow trade with Mexico. In fact, there was a trade agreement that former President Trump signed with the current president of Mexico. But there's a lot of work that has to happen to get us to that real comfortable phase where there's security, where there's trust between both countries. And right now, yes, people are spinning this as a historic win, but I'm more concerned about her record. She's been in the shadows of AMLO for a long time. She is a hard left official. Will she have her own personality, or will she be governing under the thumb of the ruling party? And to give you some context about what's happened, these elections were pretty significant for the left in Mexico. Not only did they win the presidency, but they met their longtime goal of controlling possibly the entire legislature. So what are they going to do with that? Are they going to change their constitution, as they've been promising to do, that will then put the Supreme Court, which was one of the few good checks we had in Mexico, on power, on authoritarian rule, and make those post-elected? A lot of people think that will happen. So we're very concerned. We're watching carefully. As you said, she is not a Catholic, yet she was wearing a rosary during the campaign. She took a lot of political hits for that. She was wearing a crucifix. So in my book, she's slightly demagogic and been seeking power for a long time. So we have to wait and see. We have to give her a chance to see how will she unfold her administration. Will she govern in the shadows of this hard left president, or will she try and express some of her personality between now and the time that she takes power, which is coming up? By the way, in Mexico, one more little interesting fact point, that the legislature will take control a month before, in September, before she will take over. So AMLO will have 1 month to have a new legislature under his thumb. Maybe he will do certain things we have to keep an eye on. But for Americans watching this, it's important because of security, our border. It's important because of transnational crime. Keep in mind that 30% of Mexico, roughly, according to U.S. officials, is under the control of cartels or criminal elements. So it's a lot happened there. We're going to have to watch to see how she projects herself in this important position in Mexico.
And Jason, we have about a minute left or so much more we can talk about. But I want to jump off. You were talking about the U.S.-Mexico trade agreement, which replaced NAFTA under former President Trump. So how do you think this is going to play out with Sheinbaum, and how would it impact U.S. trade relations?
Well, she has said in interviews that she will support in 2026 continuing this agreement. And it is in the U.S. national interest to keep this trade deal going and, in fact, expanding it. Remember, problems in these countries, if we don't attack them at the root, and that means with free enterprise, with private property, rule of law, become problems at our border. We talked about that before on your show about Nicaragua, Guatemala, Central America. We've seen in El Salvador, when President Bukele has taken a tough stance on crime, immigration, illegal immigration eventually will curb and will slow. So we have to work together to build markets. It's important. The Mexican people are great people. They're a Catholic nation. It's going to be interesting to see how this translates into effective policy. She has not been tested at that level yet. So it's one thing to say certain things on the campaign trail. It's quite another to govern. And we have to see if this centralization of power, because that's very important to watch. They're trying to consolidate power under one central government. And that, I don't want to minimize it. These folks have a tendency to push leftist agenda. So I'm also concerned about religious freedom. So we do have to focus on that as well. But ultimately, yes, those trade deals are very important and we have to continue them. She has said she wants to continue them, but we have to wait and see when she's in office.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for weighing in. Always appreciate your analysis. God bless.
Thank you for having us, Tracy. God bless.
Mexico wasn't the only country facing crucial elections this weekend. South Africa's elections also took place, however, with no party winning a majority. The president is calling on all parties to overcome their differences and to find common ground.
What this election has made plain is that the people of South Africa expect their leaders to work together to meet their needs. They expect the parties for which they have voted to find common ground.
Now, the president's African National Congress, or ANC, received 40% of the votes. The ANC will need to agree on a coalition with other parties to re-elect President Ramaphosa for a second term. It says negotiations has already started. All right, now to the war in the Middle East. Israeli airstrikes overnight killed 11 people in central Gaza, including a woman and 3 children. That is according to Palestinian health officials. This just days after President Biden announced a plan for ending Israel's war with Hamas, a proposal Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu seems to be distancing himself from. During a meeting with Knesset's Foreign Affairs and Security Committee, Netanyahu said, quote, "The claim that we agreed to a ceasefire without our conditions being met is not true. This is causing some confusion." Originally, the president presented the plan as an Israeli one, but Netanyahu says that what he unveiled is not the entire plan. All right, to discuss this and more, let's bring in Stephen Cook. He is a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. His book, The End of Ambition, America's Past, Present, and Future in the Middle East, will be released this month. So good to be with you today. President Biden seemed to put the Israeli Prime Minister on the spot with this proposal. I want to get your thoughts on that. And do you think that was intentional?
Well, I think the president was trying to find the points of agreement between the Israeli government and Hamas, and then publicly put pressure on both of those parties. It should be pointed out that what the White House says the president presented was the administration's interpretation of the Israeli proposal. So when Prime Minister Netanyahu objects to certain aspects of what President Biden said on Friday, he does stand on some. He's not wrong. The White House has said that this is their interpretation of the Israeli plan.
And Stephen, can you quickly recap for us what's included in this proposal?
Well, there's 3 phases. The first one would be a 6-week ceasefire in which the Israeli forces would withdraw from Palestinian population areas, and there would be a release of some hostages in exchange for some Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails. That would lead to a second phase, which would be a more permanent ceasefire, and that would result in the release of the rest of the remaining hostages as well as additional Palestinian prisoners. And then the third phase would be the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip, and ultimately, it's hoped, negotiations towards a 2-state solution. I think that the Israelis object to the idea that they would be ending this conflict before their military objectives are met.
Yeah, and also a short time ago, as you know, Israel confirmed the deaths of 4 more hostages that are being held by Hamas. Do you think that Netanyahu has a choice here to make, getting the hostages back with a truce or his government's survival? What do you think?
Well, that has been the dilemma all along, because Netanyahu's partners to his right in the government want to pursue the military operations until the complete destruction of Hamas, where there is not an insignificant number of Israelis who also would prefer to get the hostages back. Prime Minister Netanyahu has tried to square those two positions by pursuing military operations as well as engaging in negotiations, believing that the military pressure on Hamas would result in the release of hostages. That has not happened, at least hasn't happened since last November, but nevertheless, that is his theory of the case.
We only have maybe about 20 seconds left or so, but where do you see this going? I mean, do you think they can reach an agreement on the ceasefire?
Well, the Israelis have indicated that they agree with some reservations. Everybody's waiting to hear from Hamas, which thinks it's winning the conflict.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Stephen, thank you so much for your analysis. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Just days after Donald Trump became the first former president to be convicted on 34 felonies in New York, another unprecedented trial is underway, this time in Delaware. For the first time in American history, the son of a sitting president is on trial. Hunter Biden is charged with 3 felonies. He is accused of illegally purchasing and possessing a gun while abusing or being addicted to drugs, a violation of federal law. Biden, who has written about his struggles with addiction, has pleaded not guilty. The First Lady attended the proceedings in support of her son. Now, President Joe Biden issued a statement today saying that he has boundless love for his son Hunter and is proud of him. The president's allies are worried about the toll the trial may take on the elder Biden, who has long been concerned about the well-being and sobriety of his only living son. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen.
That's right, Tracy. Hunter Biden was with his father all weekend before the case began, biking with his dad, attending church together. Now today, President Biden in Wilmington, Delaware, scheduled to attend a political fundraiser tonight up in Connecticut. All this just one more step in the race for the White House.
President Joe Biden posts on social media a clip from a speech promising to stop his biggest political opponent.
I'm not going to let Donald Trump turn America into a place that doesn't believe in honesty, decency, and treating people with respect. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let Donald Trump turn America into a place filled with anger and resentment and hate.
And just today, the Biden campaign announcing Team Biden-Harris is launching new organizing efforts and a paid media blitz to mark Pride Month to mobilize LGBTQ+ voters, communities, and leaders across the battleground states. The campaign adding LGBTQ+ voters were critical to victory in 2020 and are a critically important voting bloc to the president and vice president's re-election bid. With just over 5 months until the presidential election, the president facing anemic poll numbers, while his opponent, former President Donald Trump, looking at possible jail time next month after his conviction last week, and Trump taking some criticism for denying past comments about Hillary Clinton. The former president told Fox News, "I didn't say lock her up, but the people said lock her up."
Lock her up!
However, past videos clearly show Trump uttering the phrase too. Meanwhile, the former president joined TikTok, the video sharing app he once tried to ban as president. He posted his first video from a UFC fight in New Jersey this past weekend. Trump quickly amassed more than 1 million followers on the platform.
One more item tonight, money. The Trump campaign announcing today it hauled in $141 million in campaign donations in the month of May alone. The campaign says that total came from over 2 million donations, averaging about $70 a pop. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Well, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the public face of the government's response of the coronavirus pandemic, was in the hot seat today. He defended his actions to a House panel for the first time in nearly 2 years, and it was not without fireworks. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales joins us now with more. Eric.
That is correct, Tracy. Lots of fireworks. The GOP-led House subcommittee investigating the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic grilled the doctor on a variety of issues. They said that they're still waiting for his private emails and cell phone records related to the Wuhan Institute. GOP lawmakers say that there's evidence, and it's clear that Dr. Fauci and others tried to evade public transparency.
Why was the administration so pushing not to have the lab leak theory as something that was viable?
I can answer that. I've kept an open mind throughout the entire process.
You kept an open mind. Dr. Fauci, open mind.
That is correct.
Dr. Fauci denied any back-channel emails between himself and his team, ones that could avoid a FOIA request.
Let me state for the record that to the best of my knowledge, I have never conducted official business using my personal email.
Republicans question the oversight of China's Wuhan lab.
We know what viruses they were studying.
How? How do you know? You never went there.
I'm telling you that the NIH funded research on these viruses. If someone else somewhere in China was doing something else,
well, and that's the problem, because NIH didn't go there.
Others brought up why he didn't question the mandatory 6 feet distancing guidelines implemented by the CDC.
You know, when you talk about misinformation, I think that you have to be careful. It's not disinformation. It was information that ultimately proved, when you put the aerosolization in, that
it was not an effective rule to have 6 feet of distancing.
Prior to the hearing, Democrats held a presser defending Dr. Fauci's actions.
He did not fund research to create the COVID-19 pandemic. He did not lie to Congress about gain-of-function research in Wuhan, and he did not organize a lab leak suppression campaign to cover his tracks. These are outrageous concoctions, fabrications, and distortions.
Congressman Rich McCormick, a medical doctor, brought up how Americans lost their rights and livelihoods.
You inspired and created fear through mask mandates, school closures, vaccine mandates that have destroyed the American people's trust in our public health institutions.
Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene took it further.
You know what this committee should be doing? We should be recommending you to be prosecuted. We should be writing a criminal referral because you should be prosecuted for crimes against humanity. You belong in prison, Dr. Fauci.
During the hearing, Dr. Fauci did admit medical officials could have done a better job in releasing the data about vaccines quicker, but in the same breath, he continued to testify that vaccinations saved lives. Also want to let you know about some other news. Over in the Senate, Democrats look to squeeze Republicans once again over the abortion issue. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer on the floor today said that he does plan to have a vote on the Right to Contraception Act on Wednesday. Also, Democratic Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas announced that she's battling pancreatic cancer. She warned her constituents that she'll likely be occasionally absent from Congress while undergoing treatment. In a statement she actually released, quote, "The road ahead will not be easy, but I stand in faith that God will strengthen me." She is 74 years old and has been a representative of Texas' 18th Congressional District for some 30 years. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including the world's largest procession, a look at a Eucharistic miracle from 800 years ago and how it continues to inspire the faithful. Welcome back. A miracle back in the 13th century is part of the origin story for the Feast of Corpus Christi. Centuries later, the historic and miraculous event continues to draw pilgrims from around the world. EWTN Vatican journalist Magdalena Wolinska-Riedi has more.
There are so many people who come here every day to pray, especially many groups of children waiting to receive their first communion together with their pastors and catechists.
800 years ago, a small town outside of Rome became known as the city of a Eucharistic miracle. Now, in 2024, pilgrims still flock to Bolsena, where the Feast of Corpus Christi partially originates. According to tradition, a German priest stopped at Bolsena while on a pilgrimage to Rome. While he was described as a pious priest, he struggled with the concept of the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. But when he celebrated Mass at the tomb of Santa Cristina, something miraculous happened.
At the moment of the consecration, the host began to bleed. The priest took the sacred corporal, brought it into the sacristy, and immediately ran to Orvieto, next to Bolsena, where Pope Urban IV was in the residence with his papal court.
After a thorough investigation, the Pope ordered that the host and the altar cloth, stained with miraculous blood, be brought to Orvieto and placed on display. On August 11, 1264, Pope Urban IV extended the Feast of Corpus Christi in Orvieto to the entire Catholic world with the bull Transiturus de Hoc Mundo and commissioned St. Thomas Aquinas to compose the liturgical text for the feast. Now, on the first day after Trinity Sunday, cities throughout the world host Corpus Christi processions. In Bolsena, the solemn procession stretches almost 2 miles. Described as the longest one in the world, the route is famously adorned with a spectacular floral carpet crafted by groups of infioratores.
This is something we have done from generation to generation. It's very beautiful because both children and adults participate in it. Even the elderly, who cannot kneel to decorate the carpet, help us behind the scenes by cutting the flowers. It's a tradition which involves everyone in Bolsena.
During the procession, the Eucharist and one of the stones on which drops of blood were said to have fallen during a miracle is carried around the town. The town of Bolsena, the Basilica of Santa Cristina, and the story of a priest who had his doubt changed to belief all remind the faithful of the true presence of Christ in the Eucharist. In Bolsena, for EWTN News Nightly, Magdalena Wolinska-Riedi.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, Jesus Thirst. Learn about a new film focused on the power of the Eucharist. Plus, the Holy Father reminds the faithful why the Eucharist teaches us to be thankful for God's many gifts to us.
Jesus' love is made present through the Eucharist. He didn't want to leave us orphans. He left us himself in the Eucharist.
Well, that is the clip from Jesus Thirst, the highly anticipated film that hits movie theaters nationwide starting tomorrow. Directed by Tim Moriarty, the movie is a global look at the power of the Eucharist. The film is a 3-day limited release event. Here to discuss the film is one of the executive producers, Deacon Steve Grego, who also hosts radio shows on both Relevant Radio and SNE Catholic Radio in Los Angeles. Deacon, great to be with you today. First off, tell us, why you decided to be a part of this movie and make it, and why now?
Well, it is so critical. Thank you so much for allowing me to be on the show. But as you know, we're in the midst of Eucharistic revival, and people need to understand the truth of the real presence. As you know, in recent surveys, roughly 2/3 up to 70% of people think it's symbolic. And so we felt compelled to make this film in the midst of this Eucharistic revival nationally to really show a documentary from the earliest of times when Jesus had the Last Supper on the early church, from the beginning of when Jesus was here on earth in the real presence all the way through. And obviously, somehow, the enemy wanted us not to believe. And so this particular documentary film will change lives. I absolutely guarantee it. I've seen people come crying out. They're so enthusiastic about it.
It is so beautiful, and so many people, their lives have been transformed by the Eucharist. So many stories to tell. How did you pick the stories? How did you select the subjects to be featured in this movie?
Well, we wanted it to be international. We wanted to show Eucharistic miracles. We also wanted to show the truth about where we are. So we interview some young people on the streets that say, well, I just think it's a symbol. And then we evolve all the way through to talk about the history, the Eucharistic miracles, to look at thought leaders amazing people like Father Donald Calloway, Father Chris Alar, Dr. Timothy Gray, Curtis Martin, Scott Hahn. It's the who's who of the Catholic Church to tell us both the history and the present time about why it's so critical that we believe. Our life will change. We also really emphasize Eucharistic adoration and the importance of that. But, it really is a story about how much Jesus loves us. Jesus loves us so much, he gave us himself.
Absolutely. Deacon Steve, what are you most excited about when it comes to this movie?
I think that I am most excited about is to see the transformation in people actually watching the movie, because they come out and they tell me that their life has changed. Within the movie itself, I really get a lot out of Eucharistic miracles, Lanciano, the fact that 750 AD was when the miracle happened, and you still see Jesus in that Eucharist and see his blood. When you go to Lanciano, it's amazing. I love the Sikh conference at the very end, to see the young adults there on fire for Jesus Christ, thousands of them. And so, there's so many parts of the movie that I absolutely love. I've seen it like over 15 times. Obviously, as executive producer, I was involved in the creation of it. But bottom line is this: I'm never going to be the same because of this movie, because I'm even more on fire for the Eucharist, for Jesus to be an evangelist as a result of seeing the movie.
Well, Deacon Steve, thank you so much for making this movie a movie that a blessing to us all. We really appreciate it, and God bless you.
God bless you, too. Thank you so much, and thank you to your listeners and viewers.
Finally tonight, for the first time in years, Pope Francis participated in Corpus Christi celebrations in Rome. The Holy Father reminded the faithful that God never abandons us. Instead, he waits for us to accept him in the form of bread and wine.
Di quella mano tesa del Signore che sempre ci aiuta a sollevarci.
Presiding at Mass on the solemnity of Corpus Christi in the Basilica of St. John Lateran, the Holy Father reflected on the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. Pope Francis said that in giving us his body and blood, Jesus taught us to give ourselves as an offering to people in need and those around us. After Mass, cardinals, bishops, priests, religious sisters, and families walked roughly 1 hour to the Basilica of St. Mary Major. There, they received a blessing from the Holy Father. And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sable. Good night, and God bless.